Yep, she's dead. Tired. Tired from sitting in the driveway, not being driven. Frankly, probably feeling a little bit neglected. Now, where we left off, we got the brake lines installed, we got a new master cylinder, new hydro boost, new rear calipers, and stainless steel brake lines all around. And honestly, since then, Tahiti's just kind of been sitting in the driveway because I still haven't gotten the alignment performed from when we rebuilt the entire suspension, found right up here. But yeah, since it's been sitting, the battery has slowly kind of been going downhill, and I'm talking about just like a few days and the thing will be dead. First thing I noticed is the dash cam. It's programmed in a way where if the voltage drops below a certain amount, I think like under 12 volts, or you can set it a little higher, it automatically turns off parking mode to save the battery. And I've been noticing it hasn't been on in parking mode at all lately. I'll come in and then start the vehicle up. You hear it boot up the dash cam. So I know for a fact that the battery just doesn't have enough capacity to even keep the dash cam running in parking mode. And you know, it's a 3-year-old Walmart battery. I'll give it to them. It is a decent battery. If you've seen the Project Farm video where he tested out a bunch of different batteries, the Walmart is actually pretty good. And it is a 3-year full replacement warranty for the one that I got. But instead of just warrantying that out and putting it back in, I decided to go for something just a little bit better. So what I have right here is a DieHard Platinum AGM, or absorbed glass matte battery. These batteries are just all around better when it comes to vehicles with a lot of electrical accessories or, you know, excessive electrical loads. I put one of these in my Camaro last year. It wasn't a DieHard, it was a Duralast Platinum AGM, essentially the same thing. And I noticed that car, the battery lasts a lot longer when it's sitting for a while. So in the winter, I don't drive it as much. I noticed with the old style battery, I'd have to jump it after a few months. With the Platinum battery I put in, it pretty much could sit and don't have to worry about it, cranks right up every time. And these batteries are better, just all around design. Instead of having a bunch of electrolyte kind of sloshing around in there like a traditional battery, instead it has a bunch of fiberglass mats that kind of are soaked with the solution, and that just makes it completely maintenance free. You don't have to worry about battery acid ever leaking out. And if you're like me and you run your batteries without a hold down for 3 years, they might last a little bit longer than a traditional battery. Yeah, so I have been running this thing without a hold down ever since I got it. The Tahoe actually didn't have a hold down in there when I got it. The previous battery was also dead and it didn't have a hold down. I should have took that as a hint. But you know, it's one of those stupid little things. You're like, yeah, okay, it's not a huge deal. I'll get to it. Well, now the battery's dead, and it's probably because of the hold down. But I do have the one from the Trans Am, being it's not going to need it anymore. It's the same hold down, so we'll swap that in along with the new battery. So winter's right around the corner, and I feel like I'd be doing you guys a grave disservice if I didn't just kind of talk about jump starters for a second. I've had this GOOLOO jump starter I got off of Amazon, just going by reviews. I decided to purchase it. It cost me about 60 bucks, and it's been great so far. I have about 5 or 6 jumps on this thing with this charger, and it still has 4 lights left on the battery out of 5. I jumped this thing probably 3 or 4 times. I took it to work. I had to jump a 6.4 Hemi with it, and it's still a lot of battery left. So I totally recommend this. It's a really nice budget jump starter if you do need one. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because GOOLOO actually got in contact with me, and they wanted to send me one to try out in the video. And I already told them, I said, you know what, I actually own one already and I like it. So of course, you know, when a company gets in contact with me and it's already something that I own and use, I'm definitely gonna try out something else if they want to send it to me. So what I have here is the GP4000. They're top of the line jump pack. You can see this thing is absolutely massive. This thing's supposed to be good to jump up to 10-liter diesels and any liter, any size gasoline engine. So if you are a diesel guy, I definitely recommend grabbing this one. Or if you have a Tahoe or anything, I'd still recommend it just because of the size of it. It's gonna last really, really long, get you through a lot of jump starts. And it is a little more money than this one. But if you are on a budget and you do want to get one that's still going to be very reliable and work for your V8, your V6, your 4-cylinder, I do highly recommend this one as well. So let's go ahead, jump this thing. We're going to use the little baby one just because I've been using it and it still has some battery left. And these side terminal batteries are very picky. So what I like to do is connect straight to the lug over here where the alternator connects, just because the nut's a little bit bigger and there's no corrosion on it. And then you could go straight to the alternator bracket here for your Oh, she's coming to life. For your ground. All right, you should be good there. I'll go ahead and put the key in, see if we get it to crank over. Actually, I need to hit the boost button here. All right, here goes nothing. Yeah, these things act really stupid when the battery goes dead. If you own one of them, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, she's gonna flip out. The computer's not gonna be happy. And check that out, we still have 4 lights left. So while Tahiti charges up for a little bit here, I'm just gonna give you guys a quick little rundown on both of these, the tech specs in case you're interested. The smaller one here is a 66 watt-hour battery. Has a few inputs and outputs. So we got 2 USBs, we got a 12 volt, 10 amp DC output here, 15 volt, 1 amp input here, and it has a light like a lot of these things do. The jump leads are gonna connect right over here. And yeah, like I said, I've had this thing for a while and it's been a great little unit. Haven't charged it in a really long time and I've been jumping this thing like crazy with it. But moving over to the GP4000, as you can see, is a hell of a lot bigger. This is actually a 99 watt-hour battery. So it's pretty much like the legal limit for what you can take on an airplane, which is 100 watt-hours. So I mean, if you want to leave this thing in your car, you need a travel battery, something to keep your phone charged, your laptop, any little devices like that. I definitely recommend this one because you have a lot of battery on tap. And yeah, same thing, this has a couple of USBs, also has a USB Type-C input and output, and then the DC output on this is actually 15 volts and 10 amps. And the way you would use that, this model actually comes with the adapter. So this would plug right into there, and then you could plug any, you know, just regular DC 12 volts accessory that you use in your car right into this. It's like 30 seconds when you don't have a hold down. Like 35 seconds with the hold down. All right, let me go find the hold down. I don't even know if this bolt is the same size. It looks like it's bigger than the bolt in the Trans Am. Or it could just be really rusty from not having anything plugged into it for who knows how long. Well, screwed into it. Yeah, it's not gonna fit. So I'm just gonna squirt some tool oil down there because I do not have penetrating oil. All right, let's try this again. They're just crusty. Look at that. Slide it over a bit more. Oh yeah. First time Tahiti's had a hold down in at least 3 years. So before we make that final connection, I'm just gonna show you guys real quick how to check for a parasitic draw. Now, this is definitely a good thing to do, especially if you have your battery going dead. And you want to make sure you're not going to kill the new one, or you know, even if you just randomly have a draw problem and your battery just goes dead every few hours or whatever, you replace the battery, replace the alternator, did a bunch of stuff, you can't figure out why it's dying. This is going to show you exactly what the problem is. So all we're going to be using is very simple Harbor Freight voltmeter. I actually had to run out and pick this one up. My Fluke one I wasn't getting a reading. I guess the fuse inside is blown. But very simply, we're going to connect both of these leads in line with the negative terminal. So one end is going to go on the wire on the car, the negative battery cable coming off the engine or the frame, whatever. The other one is going to go to the battery, and this is going to complete that connection and measure any draws that are going through the battery to the vehicle. So once again, the positive connection is made. We have our negative just floating over here. And first thing you're going to do is grab your voltmeter and take one of your leads and stick them into your A-hole. So with that connection made, we're going to be able to read amps. Let's connect the common. Now, before we make our connection here, we just want to get a reading of the voltmeter before we make any connection. So we're getting a 32 milliamp reading with nothing hooked up. So that's going to be what we need to deduct from whatever our reading is. And yeah, we are on amps. We want to be on DC amps, and we're just going to connect these in line. So we want to connect one to the battery on the negative side where, you know, our connection isn't made yet, because remember, we do have the positive hooked up right now. And then the other one will hook up to the wire on the car. Now, doing this, we're essentially hooking the battery up now. So that negative connection is going to be made through the voltmeter. So any reading we see is going to be what's actually passing from the battery into the car and what's drawing. So right now, being this was just connected, we need to wait for this number to drop because the computer just booted up. Everything in the car's got power, so we need to wait for that, you know, to drop down. And ideally, you want to see like below 100 milliamps. Older cars is going to be less. Newer cars, they are going to have a lot more, you know, stuff going on even when the vehicle's turned off. But ideally, below 100 milliamps is where you want to be. So I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, wait for that number to drop down, and we'll see what we end up with. And as of right now, I do have the dash cam disconnected, so that's not going to be pulling any power from this. All right, so it's been a couple of minutes, and we're averaging around 100 milliamps. Remember, we got to deduct that like 33, whatever reading that we already had. So yeah, on average, we are under 100 milliamps. And even what we're seeing now, when it's shooting up to 160, which would be 130, that's not going to kill the battery as quickly as I'm seeing where it's going dead within 2 days. So I know this is normal for me. But yeah, if you do have a reading, and what you're ideally going to be looking for if your battery is going dead really quickly, and you know it's a new battery and everything, and it's got to be a draw somewhere, you'll see like a 1 amp or 2 amp, or you'll see, you know, a substantial draw where maybe a light's on, or there's a problem with the radio staying on. And what you're going to do to actually narrow that down is just go into your fuse box and start plucking fuses one by one. Pull one out, see if the number goes down. Nothing, put it back in, go to the next one. Eventually you'll hit the circuit that has the draw, and you'll see that number drop from like 2 or 3 amps down to almost nothing, or what we're seeing here. And then you know your issue lies within that circuit. And one last thing, the dash cam, I can't plug it back in because once the camera's replugged, you got to cycle the ignition key. So there's really no way I could do that without probably like blowing the fuse in this thing. So I know right away I don't have a draw. So if the battery continues to go dead from here on out, I know I'm going to have to look into that dash cam and see what the hell's going on with it. All right, so she's been running for a while. The idle finally figured itself out. It's running nice and smooth. One last thing I want to do is just let this thing sit for a few days with the dash cam on, because I'm curious to see how long the dash cam can actually go with this new battery before it, you know, turns off to save the battery. And, you know, obviously just to make sure we don't have a problem with it going dead again. But I'm going to let this sit. It's Tuesday now. I'm going to check on it every day. And I guess on Friday I'll check back in and we'll see how it's doing. All right, guys, so it's Friday and I have some, you know, decent results. I ended up leaving this thing from Tuesday afternoon to Friday morning. And the battery lasted almost all the way till Friday. I've been checking on it every day since I've been going to work on the last Trans Am video that went up. And pretty much when I left it Tuesday afternoon, the dash cam was on, out of the parking mode. Came back Wednesday, it was still on. Came back Thursday, it was still on. And then sometime between Thursday after 3 p.m. and now 10 a.m. on Friday, I guess the voltage got too low and it turned off. So that's about a little over 48 hours of the dash cam, you know, operating in parking mode before the voltage got too low. And I did go ahead and throw the battery tester on it before I started it up, and it was right at like 11.69 volts, which is where the dash cam is set to turn off if the voltage drops to. So that's working fine. We got no other draws, and she started up without a problem. Wasn't even slow or anything. Now that time is pretty good because with the old battery, it would last a little over 24 hours and then it would turn off. And I don't know if that's just because the battery's going out or, you know, this is an AGM, so it makes that much of a difference. But I definitely want to look into something where maybe I get some, you know, separate batteries that I put under the seat in the back or something that's dedicated to the dash cam, so it's going to give me extra capacity. Because realistically, I like to have the camera, you know, working for at least maybe a week, you know, in case I go on vacation or something. I don't have to worry about the camera cocking out after a couple of days and then somebody backs into the car or something and the camera's basically useless at that point. So for the next video, we are going to be jumping back into Tahiti suspension and changing some things, doing some much needed upgrades to make this thing a true performance truck or SUV. I'm not going soft on it anymore. We're starting to get into the actual performance mods of this build, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like what I have in store. But for now, that's going to do it for this one. I'll see you in a few days.